Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for inviting me. Let me start by introducing myself. I'm a professor of economics at Simon Fraser University, and I research behavioral and experimental economics. I'm personally grateful to SSHRC for support for my own work as an MA and PhD student at UBC and now as a faculty member at SFU. As background, I served on 4 SSHRC Insight Development Grant Adjudication Committees for Economics from 2020 to 2023. Let me start with my experience there. My experience was quite positive. Members were well qualified. They took the task seriously. They were committed to funding the best proposals according to the standards of economics. Criteria were reasonably well specified to enable the committee to do that. I actually liked working with criteria better than, say, the NSF criteria. The SSHRC criteria are just easier to interpret. Disciplinary evaluation does what it is intended to do. It picks the best proposals according to the standards of each discipline. Academia is organized by discipline, so this is a sensible way of adjudicating proposals. However, SSHRC lacks good criteria for allocating money across disciplines and programs. I don't have a perfect solution, but I want to point to 3 issues and offer some incremental suggestions that might better align SSHRC funding with priorities of Canadians. Number 1, let's talk about the SSHRC Talent Program, which funds fellowships and scholarships for grad students and postdocs. I think the distribution of that is out of line. Let's just pick on a little example here. In 2024, the Talent Program funded 140 scholarships and fellowships in sociology, 155 in history, only 52 in business, and 40 in economics. Now, at a typical university, both business and economics are just much larger departments than history and sociology. It almost goes without saying, there's much more demand for business and economics PhDs as well. So I think this allocation of funding is perverse, and I don't mean to pick on these disciplines in particular. It's to generate a more general problem. So I recommend that the SSHRC rethink how it allocates talent program funding across disciplines. Consider a metric like the number of students graduating a year for allocating it across disciplines. Maybe make an adjustment for the market demand for graduates. Second point, Canada is way behind other jurisdictions in providing high quality data to social science researchers. SSHRC should have funding to address this. There's just way more influential work in economics using Swedish and American data sets than using Canadian data sets, even if you adjust for Canada being a smaller country than America. The research that we do have from Canada has generated important insights into unique Canadian policies and institutions. But when we don't have the data to do that research, well, we have to rely on imperfect lessons from elsewhere. So I recommend that SSHRC set aside funds for research that uses Canadian data and that creates new Canadian data sets. Third point, a tricky one. I want to discuss activist research in SSHRC disciplines. Some approaches to scholarship focus on normative as opposed to positive questions. Some even reject the distinction between pursuit of truth and pursuit of activism. This is highly discipline dependent, and it exists on a continuum in the disciplines where there are some of these approaches. Here's the problem. Activist faculty are almost universally left to far left in their politics, and advocacy-oriented scholarship methods are prone to the influence of researcher biases, views, and morals. In my opinion, the lack of political balance among advocacy-oriented researchers risks social buy-in for universities as institutions. Is it legitimate for a broad spectrum of Canadian taxpayers to fund left and far left advocacy under the guise of research funding? I think the answer is no, but this is an exceptionally tricky problem to address in a principled way. I don't have a perfect solution, but let me offer some ideas. First, I suggest that funding envelopes prioritize core research through the Insight program. Second, Insight program criteria should not value normative and activist research, nor should they value non-academic outputs as knowledge mobilization. Third, I suggest that SSHRC revamp any EDI policies to make viewpoint diversity, and especially political viewpoint diversity, the primary priority. And finally, I suggest that the government get a politically balanced and representative governing council for each of the tri-councils. Researchers can seek connections and partnerships on their own. They can engage in political activism on their own dime and on their own time. To summarize, I recommend that SSHRC distribute graduate scholarships by student numbers, fund Canadian data, and rethink funding for activist research. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks a lot. We will now proceed to our second witness for this panel, Dr. Yi Zhu. Sorry for that. Please, floor is yours. You have 5 minutes for your opening remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee, for being here. It's a pleasure to be back in Ottawa to testify in front of you today. Every year, the federal government of Canada spends billions of dollars on research funding, Canadians rightly expect that this money will be used and allocated to the most deserving researchers based on excellence and excellence alone, in order for them to pursue high-quality research that will benefit Canadians and humanity in general. Sadly, this is no longer the case. Today, federal research funding is often allocated on the basis of race, sex, gender identity, ideological conformity, and other criteria which have nothing to do with the pursuit of truth and excellence. And thus, we have today federally funded candidate research chairs which are only available to people of a certain race or of a certain sex, or a combination of both, even though none of these characteristics have anything to do with the quality of somebody's research. Indeed, universities may lose their funding under the program of candidate research chairs unless they meet diversity quotas in the recruitment of professors. Today, we have federally funded research programs which, I quote, expect applicants to clearly demonstrate their strong commitment to EDI in their applications, as well as to integrate EDI in their research practice and design. Now, with respect, the purpose of research design is to enable research to be done. It is not to promote specific ideological objectives. In addition, there are many informal obstacles to the pursuit of excellence in the federal funding system for research. For example, in the humanities and social sciences, where I'm from, it is well known that research proposals which contain buzzwords and a fashionable progressive language have a much better chance of being funded than proposals which are on more traditional subjects and which adopt more traditional approaches. This means that from the beginning of their careers, young scholars are taught that the way to get ahead in academia is to be a conformist, is to chase grant money using buzzwords, regardless of what they actually believe is intellectually valuable and important. Now, I speak, like Dr. Freeman, I speak to this committee as a former recipient of money from SSHRC, which enabled me to do my PhD. I'm very grateful to the Canadian taxpayer and to SSHRC and to the federal government to enable me to have a career as an academic, which I would not have been able to pursue otherwise. And naturally, I'm a strong believer in the value of investing public money into research. However, in these difficult times economically, many Canadians question the value of giving money to academics to study subjects which sometimes may seem irrelevant to their lives and to their personal struggles. The heavy-handed imposition of EDI and other ideological requirements in public research funding undermines public support for this funding and threatens the future of Canadian higher education. And that, I think, is something which needs to be addressed, and urgently so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now proceed to our round of questions.